Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, and yes, it's that time again. But before I kick off, letting you know my thoughts, opinions, reviews of the comics that I picked up this week, just want to give out a big shout out, a moment of thanks and some more support to Adam McGovern, co-creator of this book, Night World. It's a 4-issue mini-series coming out of Image. He very kindly put a link to my last week's review video where I sung the praises of this title, and he kindly tweeted that now I had become Night World's favourite YouTube channeler. Thank you very much. But he did also comment on last week's video and kind of confirmed what I was hoping would happen, but it does mean I need you all to go out and buy this. This is, if popular enough, is going to come out very much like Manola's Baltimore series, where you will get a 4-issue series, maybe 6. Can I have 6, Adam? And then there'll be a big break, and then we'll come back. You may see other characters within this Night World universe, but it's such fun. It's a great Kirby-esque feel, going back to his kind of like Marvel Eternal days or DC New Gods. It's very imaginative and very kind of nostalgic, artistic feel to it, and I encourage you, I recommend you to go and pick this title up and then go and pick out the subsequent 3 issues, please, because I want to see more of this. But this week's comics came out, of course. Had a stack of about 9 or 10 this week. There was a couple that I won't be reviewing here. That's Dr. Spectre, because I didn't get issue 2 and I want to read that one first. I also got issue 18 of Batman Eternal that I'd missed from a couple of weeks ago, so I'm all caught up there. But the first comic I want to talk about this week is the big #1 from the DC that came out, the one that we've been waiting for so long. It is, of course, Grant Morrison's The Multiversity. I'm not sure how I'm going to review this, but I certainly have some opinions and thoughts about it. And they all kind of go around the idea of questions, really. I mean, what is really going on here? How did we all get on with it? Is anyone that is only new to DC because of the New 52 going to understand what is going on here? Do they even stand a chance? I mean, I struggled with this, and it's going to take many more reads. And I'm not saying that this is a bad comic in any stretch of the imagination, because there's plenty of action there. It's very exciting. It's chock full of superheroes. But at the same time, if you've read this, Crisis on Infinite Earths, you may see some similarities, and when I got to the end, I did kind of feel this is just like the New 52's version of Crisis on Infinite Earth. So how much old readers will get out of this? Will they understand what's going on a lot more? Probably so. Like I said, this is very much accumulating, gathering superheroes from all the 52 Earths to fight the big bad that is kind of destroying Earth as it goes along. So very much like the old version of this. There are countless things to look at in here. The big group shots with all the characters in, you know, you'll see versions of characters that you're used to, but coming from different Earths. And then there's the big bad at the very end, one of the big bads at the very end, the turning of a supposed superhero. My problem with this is that it kind of gets a little bit too self-referential. There's that whole bit at the start that this is actually just a work of fiction. It's someone who's reading this comic in bed. It's just a regular Joe like you and me. And then there's the part with Red Racer, who's basically the Flash from another Earth, who gives the issue of Action Comics with the Black Superman on the front to our Black Superman of this issue to sign it for him. And there's all that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, let's not be too clever here. You've got to remember, Mr. Morrison, that there are new readers on here. Whether this takes place pre or post 52, you have now a whole new universe, and it has brought in a lot of new people, and they won't know all this. So you could end up alienating a lot of people. However, I like the idea that this series is basically going to be a run of number ones. Basically, we've got a kind of Justice Society number one coming next week, or next month, sorry. And the top and tail issues is this and its ending. So there's kind of like, there's 7 number one issues between this, focusing on one story. Will this spin out into other areas? I don't know. I've tried not to read a lot about it. I had fun with it, but it's going to take some reading. On to the next one I picked up. It's Umbral. It's issue number 8. And I'm going to say I'm going to keep picking this up. I kind of been on the fence with this, whether to keep on with it or not, and I finally decided yes, I'm going to continue with it. Not because the story particularly got any better this issue, but basically it's Tolkien fantasy, and I just lap all that stuff up. Not a great deal progression of the story goes on here. We still have our kind of band of characters trying to outrun the Red Guard, escaping from the kind of little farm that they kind of rested in. We hear some like kind of myth stories about this Silvars that roam around the forest that they're trying to get through. And of course, who do they meet at the end? Are these people with their beasts going to end up being friends, allies or enemies? It is a well-trodden path of the kind of fantasy genre. The artwork is really good though. I really enjoy this kind of style that Christopher Mitten has here. Probably has a lot to do with the inker and colorist Jordan Boyd and Thomas Mauer, adding to the kind of the dark side of fantasy. So I'm enjoying it. I'm not hating this. It's just stuff I've read all before. Moving on to playing catch up, we finally got there. Batman issue 20 this week, and finally having caught up, I've kind of not struggled with the last few issues, but much like an unruly teenager, this last few issues have been kind of chaotic in some respects. This issue is not without its action. In fact, it's jam-packed full of action. You've got Batgirl, Batwoman and Red Hood in Brazil trying to take down Falsario, get the evidence that they need to acquit James Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, of killing all those hundreds of people. Batman, Killer Croc and Lieutenant Bard, they're trying to fight their way out of the Gotham underground, and obviously Commissioner Gordon quelling riots in Blackgate. So there's plenty going on, but it's all very chaotic. And it kind of occurred to me, and I'm sure once we get further on, these threads will all start tying together, but we all know that there has to be some master puppeteer behind everything that's going on. But at the moment, nothing seems to even remotely connect. Now, whether that's just Scott Snyder being an incredibly clever writer, and once we get to that point where we'll go, oh God, of course, and we can see how the dots all connect. But for now, it's getting a little bit tiring. However, I am of course still enjoying it. I think now we're at issue 20, and if you're at issue 20 as well, you are in this now for the long haul. If you can get this far, because we have had a bit of a roller coaster ride with this. There have been the bad issues, there have been the peaks, and it will continue to do that. But like I said, if you're here now still reading this, I can't think that you're going to drop it now. Why would you? Lots of fun, very entertaining. The artist on this one, very dark strokes here. And yes, it is very dark subject matter that their stories are dealing with. And of course, there is that amazing spoiler ending. That is all I'll say. David Lapham's Stray Bullets Killers issue 6 was out this week, and it's another kind of tour de force in this kind of ordinary life stories that are just these people whose lives are just completely chaotic and crazy, and you wouldn't want to be part of them, but you're so engaged with the characters and what they're going through that you can't help but on the one hand kind of empathise with them, and on the other hand you just want to shake them and tell them all to just get a grip. This storyline focuses again back on Ellie and Virginia, our kind of lovers of this title so far. Quite an odd couple, everyone against them, but they're kind of the Romeo and Juliet. They're not going to let anyone split them apart. However, in this issue, we have Ellie getting accepted to his art college that he wants to go to. And that kind of dredges up memories of Virginia's past, because they go and have a chat with Ellie's old art school teacher, because he wants to tell him, thanks to you, I'm now in art college. But unfortunately, Virginia and this school teacher have some history. Very much this title is about Virginia coping with the deaths of people close to her. Her younger brother, of course her aunt's father who committed suicide that she feels incredibly guilty about. And if that isn't hard enough for her, she's having to deal with these thoughts and feelings after being spiked by Ellie's cousin with a hallucinogenic drug, which makes the whole experience all the more intense for her, and for us the reader a more intense read. You don't exactly get, the whole trippy kind of visuals kind of thing in this book, but the people that come to her in these kind of hallucinogenic kind of visuals are certainly worrying and scary to some extent, especially to her. Again, you get to the end of this and you almost think that we're going to get a somewhat happy ending to the story, but then David Lapham just turns the knife once again, And it's just kind of heartbreaking at the end of this, where you see Ellie's face, his back turned to Virginia in bed, and this face of sadness and regret at what he has just agreed to do. Great title, certainly for the more mature reader, but appreciate this book and the fact that it is out there and you should be picking it up, so we get so many more of them. On to my favourite Vertigo series. It's Fables issue 143. Yes, as I said in Wednesday's video, 7 more issues to go till the end. And this is kind of a building up of the story, I guess, adding a couple more layers on, progressing the story inch by inch. So a lot of stuff goes on in here. We've got the magic fables all gathered together to discuss Bigby, and they kind of realise that Bigby is, well, he's clearly not himself, but because someone is manipulating him. We all know who that is. We know who's got that last shard from when Bigby was turned into the big kind of crystal wolf version of himself. But what this means is that because Bigby isn't complete, the kind of what they call raw magic is bleeding out, and unfortunately this causes the kind of illusions that are covering Fabletown from us regular folk that they call Mondays is breaking down, and people can now see through that illusion, through the facade. So what do they see first? It's this huge great castle that Rose Red's just built. Talking of Rose Red, she seems to be very, very keen to have this fight with her sister Snow, because we're getting this whole kind of Arthurian round table knights kind of theme going through this. But Snow is adamant that she is not going to play this part of the kind of Black Knight. She's not going to fight her sister. But the way things are going, you know, it looks inevitable. What else happened? Although this is a relatively sedate storyline, it's not without its shed of blood, and that comes by the hand of Brandish, the guy who caused all this trouble in the first place by trying to take Bigby's wife Snow back. And one of much loved Fables characters bites the dust. But who knows what happens to a fable when they die? Will they come back? Is our reading and remembering of the story strong enough to keep them all alive? It's a plot line that's been used time and time again in fables, and their kind of mortality or immortality, which is based on us remembering their stories. Fables, it's just great. I say it every month, I mean it every month, and I always say, go now, pick up the trades and just immerse yourself in this wonderful Fables universe. Finally, for this part of the video, it's Trees, it's issue 4, and I want you to learn a lesson. And the lesson comes from all you people that dropped East of West way back about 3 or 4 issues in, saying it was boring, nothing was going on, didn't understand what was going on. And now look at what East of West is. It's an amazing world building, full of interesting characters title. And those people that dropped it way back when missed out on all that gorgeous build up. This is what Trees is doing, and I can imagine those same people, and this is why I want you to learn from that experience, will be feeling about this, because really not a great deal goes on here, but it's entertaining and interesting and intriguing all the same. It's pretty much broken down into 2 parts with a kind of few pages on the end as you kind of cliffhanger, I suppose. But the first part of the book focuses on this kind of settlement city Shu, this hive of creativity, and we explore it along with two of our characters. That Zen, who we find out in this issue is a transgendered individual, and Tian, who's the young boy who's just recently come into Shu, who wants to go to this kind of art university college within the Shu grounds. And it's just this wonderful journey through the city, meeting with the people, the kind of cityscapes, all the people that they meet within this kind of art building. And it's just really kind of emotional in some respects, I would guess. There are some very sweet, very close moments between these two characters, despite, you know, their kind of differences. But it was just a delight to watch them just walk through the streets and get to know each other. The second half, back to the scientists up in the snowy lands of Arctic, Antarctic, wherever they are, with Marsh making a discovery about the plants that have been cropping up all around these big trees that they're calling them. And we find out why he's so adamant about wanting to stay and not take his leave from the like scientific camp, and you know, his feelings about being a failure, missing out on that one big moment, scientific, you know, discovery. And it is emotive. You feel for Marsh. He's been up there for however long, you know, it's been a long old time, and he doesn't want his time there to have been wasted. The story ends well, it's in Paris, but we see one of the characters from the Paris section of this kind of title, watching the events that are going on in Somalia, the friction between the two sides, taking ownership of what is the smallest tree that has emerged after this kind of alien invasion of sorts. So there is war a-brewing there. It's just tiny steps that Warren Ellis is making, giving these characters depth, making you feel for them, you know, bringing them to life. And it's worth the wait for the payoff that I'm sure Warren Ellis will give us further down the line. But you just have to be patient. We're down to our last two books now, and we are kicking off with The Unwritten Apocalypse, issue 8 from Mike Carey and Peter Gross, who as always are doing a great job on this title. Such a shame this is only 4 more issues to go and then it is going to be completed. However, this issue sees the end of the Arthurian legend storyline that we've got going and the quest to find the Holy Grail, and indeed our band do make it to where apparently the Holy Grail is. Is it the Holy Grail? Is it meant for Tom? Is it meant for someone else? Is Tom really the hero of this story, or does that honour need to be bestowed on someone else within their group? We revisit a character from right at the very beginning of this Apocalypse storyline, and that's Danny. Danny, who we left in Australia back at the end of the first volume of The Unwritten, and we find out his whole connection to what is happening now and why he had to go through what he did right at the very beginning, and the culmination of that is here. However short-lived his appearance is, it certainly had dramatic kind of consequences for our group. I've loved the way that Carey and Gross have cleverly kind of bled the genre that they're doing with their actual characters. I think I said this last time, but usually they are just themselves within any given genre that they're writing about, and they just happen to reside in, you know, Moby Dick or Hitler's Mein Kampf. But this time their characters kind of change and bleed into the genre. So one minute they could just be talking like you and me in modern day talk, and then suddenly they're flipped over and they're talking in this high romantic verse. And while it's funny at times, they use it very cleverly to push forward certain parts of this story and give it more impact, such as the kind of tensions between Tom and Lizzie and their relationship. Just a great book. It's, like I said, I'll be sad when this goes. It has been a very, I won't say it's been a difficult read, it's been a challenging read, because it has picked up and discussed within this format some very interesting ideas about the power of the word and how stories affect all our lives. Great title. Pick them up in trade. I wouldn't suggest picking this up now, so catch up within trades. So it only leads me to talk about Mr. Brubaker and Mr. Sean Phillips. They've done it again, haven't they? It's the Fade Out issue 1, and it's another blinder of a story from the both of them. I wasn't sure, because my only kind of foray into this super team has been in the just recently ended Fatale series, and the only reason I wanted to pick that up was because of its kind of supernatural and occult leanings, and this is a straight crime noir story in the kind of vein of, if you remember the film LA Confidential, oh, and what an amazing film that was, if you remember that. There is that, very much that feel. So if you like the film, you're gonna dig this book so much. We have a young starlet of the film screen has been murdered. We have our main character who's not quite sure how he's involved in it, having got incredibly drunk and passed out in the same room where she's been murdered. The film studio are covering it up. We don't know why. And it's just this great feeling of, I think it's probably 1920s Hollywood, and all that goes on with it. This book kind of, I want to say embraces the time, because it pulls no punches in its portrayal of like racism and sexism and the kind of anti-Semitism, sorry, that was rife in those times. As always, Sean Phillips just gets the feel for the time and is able not miraculously, does it with ease, and just puts it down there on the page, and you are just immersed into this wonderful era of kind of the classic Hollywood stars and what goes on behind the scenes. Definitely go and pick this up and continue with it, because this book is only going to get better and better. And that's it for this week. A lot of books. I hope you enjoyed what you just watched. If you've made it this far, couldn't have been that bad. If this is your first time here and you did like what you saw and you don't want to miss out on any more videos, hit the subscribe button and it will always appear in your feed. Give the video a big thumbs up. I like to see all those thumbs up, and let me know in the comments section below what you thought about the books that I've read this week. Let me know about some thoughts about the books that you read that I didn't. Until next week, have a great weekend. I've got a long weekend because it's our last bank holiday, so I've got Monday off as well. Until then, bye bye.